Hello everyone, Violet here, and let's do a Q&A video. So I have my witch's hat here filled with questions. So thank you so much for sending questions to me. And yeah, we've got a lot of different topics. This is just basically an anything Q&A. So let's get into it. I have a London Fog with oat milk decaf today. That's what I'm sipping on. So if you are drinking a beverage, let me know what it is. If you want to pause the video and go grab one, please do. And let's settle in and just hang out and read some questions. I think I need to let it steep just a bit longer. Okay. So we're just going to draw randomly here. So first off we have, okay. If you don't have a solid base of stickers, washi tape to decorate planners, where would you recommend getting started looking for that kind of thing? Nice. So what I would want to say with this, first of all, is don't feel like you have to have a huge amount of washi tape or stickers in order to plan. You certainly can find many ways to make beautiful spreads and plans without that. One of my favorite tools are colored pencils, for example, and you can do so much with that. But I totally understand the appeal of washi tape and stickers, as I have a ton of it myself. And what I would say about washi tape and stickers is that you don't want to just buy a bunch at once and collect a lot that you might not necessarily like and might not necessarily enjoy using. So I would say definitely try out the stickers or the washi tape before you use them, because there are varying degrees of quality and you might kind of discover how you use these things. With washi tape, it could be thickness, you might discover what you need as you use it. So don't feel like you have to buy a ton at once. As far as washi tape goes, honestly, what I like to do is wait for sales at Michael's. They have them pretty frequently. Last time I was at Michael's, there was a sale. So I've been able to get washi tape for pretty cheap like that. So if I see a sale, I usually pick up a couple rolls. But that might be a lovely way to do it. You might want to just start out, try one of the washi tapes and then wait for a sale. And that's when you can bulk up on whatever it is that you want to get. And for stickers, if you've noticed on my channel, I have a bunch of reviews of different eco-friendly stickers. I was on a search for eco-friendly stickers. And right now, my very favorite is, of course, Passion Planner stickers. I've got a discount code down below for that. So if you get stickers from them, please use it. Definitely get a discount. But what I'm enjoying about Passion Planner stickers is that they're paper stickers, and you can get a sticker book that has a whole bunch of designs in it. And I'm really liking the designs a lot. I know they just launched some new stickers, so I haven't really looked at them yet because I can't afford to get any. But yeah, I would suggest maybe getting a sticker sheet, see if you like it. If so, maybe get a sticker book, because then you can have a variety, find one that's your style. And that's what I would suggest. But again, don't feel like you have to buy a ton, You can really build your collection over time, and you certainly will. So don't worry about that. Okay, let's see what's next. Do you have any advice for helping establish a daily spiritual practice? Oh my goodness, let me take a sip here. So, yes. So I've been on a journey for a few years now of establishing a daily spiritual practice. And that journey continues right now, day to day, right now. So a couple things I want to say about it, first off, is that it's going to evolve, because you're going to evolve. The energy of each day evolves as well. It might not be exactly the same every single day, and that's okay. I know some people want to have a rigid spiritual routine that they do every single day. I have parts of mine that are a bit more rigid, and other parts that kind of flow with however I'm feeling, or whatever's going on. Another thing I want to say is that even if you aren't able to do it every single day, that doesn't negate it from being your daily spiritual practice. If you have the intention, I would like to do this as many days as I can, I think that is really wonderful, and it is certainly something that I struggled with. I was like, well, if I'm not doing it every single day, then it's not real, or like I'm not real, or I had major imposter syndrome with that. So I still struggle to actually do every component of my spiritual practice every single day, but I've decided to let that go and just allow each day to happen, and me do whatever it is on that day that feels right and feels best, feels most helpful. So be forgiving with yourself, number one, and know that it's going to change. Now, as far as establishing a practice, this really gets into like habit building. And I want to make some videos about habit building because it's been something I've worked on a lot and thought about a lot. But off the top of my head, I would say that connecting things so that they flow together is good. So, for example, if you already have a habit of taking a shower in the morning, this is just an example. Let's say you already have that habit. That's set in stone. Then you could add to it putting on a roller of essential oil, maybe drawing a sigil with it on yourself or something like that. Smelling the oil, bringing yourself into the present moment, like breathing with it. You could attach that to your previous habit of having a shower, that after you have your shower, you do that. So attaching a habit to a habit is really, really good. You can also have kind of like on days where it feels like you don't have as much time or as much energy, perhaps you have sort of a shorter version of that habit versus when it's really good, you want to go longer. Meditation is a great example of that. Like perhaps every day I have the goal of at least meditating 8 minutes a day, but if I can go longer and I want to go longer, I do. So that's an example. So finding those ways to be flexible and forgiving with yourself. Of course, with some people, tracking their habits really, really works. I have a loose way of doing this. Instead of saying like, here are the spiritual practices I want to do each day and checking off the box, I instead write down each day the things that I did. So it's not like it feels like a test that if I didn't do every single thing, I like did it wrong or something. But I list the things. So for example, if I did a meditation with a certain mudra, I would write down what that mudra was. If I used a mantra, I'd write that down. If I did a kind of yoga practice, I would write that down. And just kind of tracking what you're doing, but not in such a way that it feels like you are being too rigid with yourself. That's the suggestions that I would have. If you're someone who has a daily spiritual practice, please leave in the comments down below if you have any suggestions as well. That's just off the top of my head, but I certainly want to do more videos on spiritual practices and about habit building. So it's personal to you. Let it be like a creative project, an ever-changing creative project. And that is my advice. Okay, let's see what's next. Shaking it up a bit. All right. If time, money, and a pandemic were not factors, what would be your ideal vacation? Where would you go? Who would you take with you, if anyone? Oh my, well, I really would love to go to New Zealand. And I'd love to go with my family, my husband and baby. And I would love to go to New Zealand. I want to see the landscape. I've never been that far away. Like I want to be on that side of the world. And I also have family there. So it would be like checking off a lot of different things that I would want to do. And it just, it sounds like such an adventure, basically. Even just the travel together would be an adventure, which maybe taking my baby there, I'd be happy he was there with me, but the plane ride would be very difficult. Next question. How do you come up with video ideas? Well, the funny thing is, if you haven't noticed, my channel has so many different subjects that I'm all interested in. I have no problem coming up with ideas. It's, I have like a notebook with just lists and lists of ideas. Mostly, my main problem would be like keeping track of my ideas and deciding which ones to go with. So yeah, I've got tons of video ideas, and that's pretty much how I keep track of them, is just write it down when I think of them, keeping a list. And then when I have time to film a video, or I'm planning ahead to film a video, I'll look at those lists and see what feels most inspiring to me. But certainly, I'd say my problem is more so narrowing things down. And I've kind of taken a chance with this channel that I put out there all the things that I love in hopes that people who love all those things too will like it. But I've definitely already run into issues where, let's say that someone's here for the planning content, and then they see the more like magical, spiritual stuff, and they're like, ooh, that doesn't align with me at all. And I've even gotten messages about that. So I do want to say, if you're here, if you're someone like me who likes all of these things, oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you are here. I wasn't positive that you existed, and I'm so happy to meet like-minded people. If you're here for just one of the contents, thank you so much for still being here and not not wanting to follow my channel because I do other stuff as well. That also means a lot to me. So yeah. As far as video ideas go, coming up with them really hasn't been a problem, but I am learning as I go what works more so and what doesn't work quite as much, and so I'm always refining that part. That goes into the decision making for sure. Time for a new question. Oh, and I should take a sip of tea as well. If you could spend a day with any fictional character, who would it be and what would you do with them? I feel like when I wrote these on the paper, I had an answer to this. And now I'm trying to think of what my answer was. Any fictional character? You know, I would love, this is what's coming to mind right now. So of course, I love books. There are so many fictional characters. I hope this doesn't sound too cheesy. I would love to spend a day with Sherlock Holmes solving mysteries. I think that sounds like a grand adventure. I would love to spend a day in that time period of London, and yeah, if I could be helpful in some sort of case, in some sort of story. And I'm talking more the book Sherlock Holmes. I'm not really talking about any TV show or movie. Yeah, the multiple books of Sherlock Holmes. That's what I would love to do. Okay, let's see what's next. How long have you been reading tarot? So I started reading tarot, let's see, I got my first deck in 2016, I think. 2017, I took a course in reading tarot. It was really, really good. It really opened my mind to it and how it can be used. And then ever since then, I was mostly trying to read for myself here and there. But with tarot, for some reason, I found that reading for myself, I would kind of jumble everything up in my mind because I already had a preconceived idea of how things were, how I wanted things to be, and I was a little bit too close to the issues. Like if I asked a question about something important to me, it was very difficult for me to see the answer. So I started mostly reading for myself with oracle cards, but I still loved the system of tarot so much. So I only just started, I guess this past year, so 2021, is that right? Or was it 2020? I think 2021, reading for other people. And that has been amazing. Like, I feel like my skills have grown so much, and I feel capable of reading for other people in a way that's way beyond like what I could read for myself. And then similarly, I feel like I can go to other people for readings and get that objective point of view. So it's been a really amazing journey. But yeah, it started back in, I'd say 2017, because that's when I took the course in reading tarot. And I also have learned a lot from Kelly Ann Maddox on YouTube. So yes. And my first tarot deck was the Unicorn Tarot deck, and then my second one was the King Arthur Tarot deck, and it wasn't until I started reading for other people that I got more decks. So it's been a really fun journey. Next, what is your favorite book or podcast if you listen to any? Well, my favorite book, I would say it changes with whatever I'm reading at the time. Not necessarily that that's my favorite book, but that'll take me a moment. I have to think about that because there are so many. My favorite podcast, I really enjoy listening to the Witch Wave podcast. So let me know if you listen to that as well. It's so well done. It's really, really good. And books. Let me think for a moment. My favorite book. You know, I'm going to go with a book from childhood that has sparked so much imagination for me, and I feel like it's been with me throughout my life, and that is The Secret Garden. That was my favorite book in childhood, and it's definitely made an impact on my life. In fact, in our backyard right now, we have this sort of like fenced off area that someone who used to live here made this garden, but it's just completely overgrown, and you look inside and there's like a park bench, garden bench kind of thing that's sort of deteriorated, and it's like covered in plants. And anyway, it makes me think of that story. There are so many robins outside of my window. It's absolutely insane. I might take a video of it and like clip it in here so that you can see what my view is outside the window at this moment. Okay, next. Will you do journal challenges? Well, that's a wonderful video idea, doing journal challenges, so thank you so much for that idea. In my planning streams, we always have kind of a journaling prompt of the week, and it's based off of the challenge of the week from Passion Planner. But in my Twitch channel, so if you're on Twitch, please follow me on Twitch. I've got that down below. There is a fun, you earn points by like watching the stream, and then you can win, not win, but you can like kind of like buy items with channel points, and one of them is a random journal prompt. So if you come watch my stream there, it wouldn't take very long to earn enough points to do that, but I would just like off the top of my head give you a journal prompt, and that's pretty fun. So if you ever want to ask for that on YouTube too, go for it. Say, I want a random journal prompt, and I will be happy to give you one. But yeah, if you're on Twitch, it's an official channel point redemption. All right, next. How do you use your back pages in Passion Planner? That's what they're talking about. I'm always at a loss for what to do. So Passion Planner has a bunch of pages in the back. There are grid pages and blank pages. One of my favorite ways to use the blank pages is to make a collage vision board. So I do that every year for the year. I don't really have an issue filling them up in my daily Passion Planners because I just use that for whatever like I'm working out at the time. But I will say that in my weekly planner, so my like main planner for the whole year, I kind of get intimidated with myself. Like I'll make like a bullet journal spread or something in the back, and then I don't keep up with it, and then I actually end up taking it out. So last year's, it's so funny that you asked this question, because in last year's Passion Planner, I ended up taking out so many pages, and it actually helped out because it was so thick with like stickers and photos that I've put in it. So it kind of freed up some space in there. But I did not use all of my pages, and I'm a completionist, so I feel like the whole book needs to be full. This year I am thinking of adding mandalas, like drawing mandalas on some of those blank pages. and I'm not sure how I want to use the grid pages yet. But I do think that after this year, perhaps next year, I'm going to start using those pages for some of the things that I have other planners for. So I'm going to kind of consolidate into my passion planner and take some of the ways that I use these various other planners and try to do that in passion planner. At least that's my thought right now. Okay, next. How did you get started working with passion planner? Well, so I am a Passion Planner ambassador, so that's what they mean. I don't work for Passion Planner, but I definitely represent their products among other people and influencers who all, kind of, we chit chat on the Slack account. It's really great. I started with Passion Planner back in, it must have been, I want to say 2014 or 15, whenever they first had their Kickstarter. Like, I started with them, I think before it was even in print. I remember printing off my own copy of Passion Planner and like sharing their Kickstarter, and it was wonderful. And after that, I used one every single year. I haven't kept all of my passion planners, but I definitely got one every single year. And now I'm making them into sort of like scrapbook works of art, or every single day having my daily journal in there. So I'm going to keep them from now on. But yeah, it's been a long journey, and I think when I saw their application for becoming an ambassador, I was like, yes, I love Passion Planner so much. I've recommended it to so many people that I would love to just do that, be an ambassador. So that is how I got started. Let's see what's next. How did you discover tarot? So this is kind of a similar answer to my other one, but really I discovered it. Actually, no, it's a very different answer, because when I first came across tarot, I was 13. I went to a medieval fair and I got my tarot cards read. And it was such an eye-opening, incredible experience to me. I felt like the reader really understood me. And that was a time when, you're 13, you're kind of like angsty, not sure where you fit in with the world. And having someone talk to me and looking at the tarot cards as like puzzle pieces. I don't even remember what she said, but I remember connecting to it so much, and it made me feel very grounded in like who I was and what I was doing. And it was such an amazing experience that it really stuck with me, and I always wanted to repeat that experience. And whenever I'd go back to the medieval fair, I never quite had the same quality reader, I'll have to say, or at least the same experience as I did with that very first one. But I think that was a big part of what inspired me later on to get my own deck, and then here we are. you know that journey ever since. All right. How do you make your skin look so glowing and pretty? Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Thank you for the compliment. I'm someone who actually, and my skin is not perfect, by the way, at all, but I am someone who definitely used to struggle with having like acne, a lot of it, even at times growing up. And there are a number of different things. So I'm going to name them, and I'm not sure like exactly what it is 100%, but I think it's a combination of these. So number one, the first thing that I did was I switched to all natural products and all natural makeup. So like my foundation that I use is from EVXO is the company, and that has been really wonderful for my skin. I feel like I used to put a lot of more like harsh chemicals and stuff on my skin, so it's really good. Switching, that was amazing. I also definitely believe that instead of like putting things on, it comes from within. So having a healthier diet, eating more cleanly, drinking water, all of that. I do think I saw a huge difference when I went vegan. That was amazing. So that's also been a big part of it. And with the things that you put on top, really all I use now, I make a toner with witch hazel and or rose water. and I use that on my face. I use that to like clean off makeup and stuff. And then I use coconut oil as a moisturizer. And occasionally I will use a couple things. Occasionally I'll use a little oh my gosh, I'm going blank on the word. Like a scrubby that is exfoliating. That's the word. And I'll also use like a red clay mud mask. So I'm really careful about all those things being like, organic and good ingredients. And then lastly, I think that this was a big part of it, but just like changing my mindset about my skin and how I thought about it, and also my feelings about myself and just kind of, being in a happier place. I saw the hugest difference then. It also was around the time that I was doing a lot of stuff with medical medium protocols, such as like celery juice and doing the 28-day healing cleanse and that sort of thing. So I think that also ties back into diet. So I know that's a long list of stuff. I'm not sure exactly what I would identify as like the best things, because all of them as a whole, I think holistically helped me a lot with my skin. Okay, let's see what's next. Do you recommend different planners for different things? Yes and no, I'd say. So yes, if you've seen my planner video for my huge stack of what I used this year, I can't help myself. I get planners for different things. I find them really inspiring. I use them as journals as well. And but then I also understand the benefit for having everything being in one place, especially now that I'm someone who doesn't use a smartphone. I think having a planner with everything in it would be really, really useful. However, now that I'm also someone who's basically a stay-at-home mom, just working from home, being at home, I have all of my planners available to me here. I don't have to really like take them on the go. So that works for me too. So I would say think about your flow of where are you when you would work on certain things. If you're in different spaces, then perhaps having a different planner for those different projects and different spaces could make sense. So yeah, it depends on your situation. If you're always going to be on the go or always kind of like having one thing with you, then maybe if you have the space for it, use that planner for multiple things. But yeah, I'd say that in general, I tend to delegate out to different planners, but I always have the feeling like, oh, I kind of want to consolidate it into one, as I was saying earlier with the passion planner. So that's my answer, is it depends, I'd say. Let's see what we have next. One more sip of coffee. By coffee, I mean tea. Okay. When you were in university, what was your favorite elective class you took unrelated to your major, and why? So I was pretty, what's the word? Crazy? Is crazy the word? In college, I got a dual degree and 2 minors. So pretty much everything that I had to take in college had to do with my major. But there was one elective class that I really, really wanted to take, and that was film theory and criticism. And what was amazing about that class, I remember, was it was basically like, I think it met twice a week. And on one day, you would show up to this like mini theater room, and I would just show up with like, a tea or a coffee at the time, probably more likely, some fun drink, and we'd sit and just watch a film for that class. And it was always such a wonderful break for me to just like sit and watch a film. And then the other day that we met, we would discuss the film that we watched, and we would have read ahead of time some really fascinating articles on like film theory and criticism, and discuss that in conjunction with the movie that we watched. I loved that class so much. I loved the discussions. I loved being exposed to so many films. I still remember things from it. Like, that was an amazing elective class, and I'm so glad I took it. Let's see what's next. how did you go about planning your novel, like the plotting and outlining aspect? Nice. So I do that ahead of time. I'm definitely someone who plans out my novel ahead of time, and I like to work from a structure. Like I either find a structure like a plot format. I do have a video on like books that I really love about writing that have been helpful. Or I create one for myself. I create some sort of structure, and from that, I use that creatively to like break things down. So it's almost like I impose rules on myself, and then I work within those rules. If I had to break them, I mean, I made the rules myself, so it's fine. But I do find that like creativity comes with constraints sometimes. So, for example, I'm planning out a novel for next year, and I am thinking of scenes that have to do with different tarot cards, actually. It's not going to be obvious in the novel, but that is part of the structure that I'm using myself to then create the scenes and the ideas. So I hope that that's helpful. I think it probably depends novel to novel, but certainly I think I work best in that sort of way, like imposing limits and being creative within those limits, and definitely planning things out ahead of time. All right. Do you meal plan? How do you use your planner to help with this? Wonderful question. So kind of. I don't make a plan each week that's like, here are our meals for this week, but instead I like to come up with like meal structures. So I do have a video on that too, actually. And yeah, I like to come up with meal structures and think like, okay, this is something you could use for multiple weeks in a way, where it's like, here are themed dinners each night or something. Or here's a way that I can like use the ingredients that I buy and roll things over so that a leftover can become a new meal, or that sort of a thing. So I usually, when I do that, I have kind of a basic like a menu of things that we have on hand for breakfast and on hand for lunch, and that pretty much helps with just the like shopping list, and then planning out the dinners. And then of course like the leftovers of the dinner can be the lunch the next day. And yeah, so it's something that I can kind of like roll over week to week if we like the system that we're working with, and then we change it when we want to. And I've got a planner that's just for meal planning for that. It's undated, so I'll just use one, and then when we come up with a new idea, I'll make another one, but it isn't something that I do every single week. But you certainly could use any planner probably and add that into your format. Like you could definitely do that in Passion Planner. But yeah, I use a separate planner for that, and you'll see that in my video if you want to check it out. Next. What advice would you give to someone trying to use a planner more consistently? Okay, so I think the biggest thing for me for using a planner consistently is having a weekly date with myself to sit down and work in my planner. So it's kind of funny using a planner to plan when you're going to plan, but I think it's really important. So for example, like, you all know that every Saturday I come and I do a plan with me here on my channel, but that is my time that I sit with myself and do it. I used to have a date where I'd go to like my favorite Indian restaurant, or I'd go, I'd find some fun bookstore or coffee shop or something on the weekend, and I would do my planner, and it was like also my artist date, if that makes sense. So I would take myself out, go work in my planner, have that time. That's less of a luxury nowadays, but what I've gained is actually finding people online who have a community and doing that, you know, as a community. So like we've built a community here on this channel, but I also have enjoyed watching other plan with me. So you could search them, find one that resonates, find one where the timing works, or rewatch one if you need your own timing. And just doing that with other people is really helpful. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Having it in a spot where you see it every day, depending on your planner system, but that's also really helpful. So planning maybe once a week, seeing it the next day, or you might want to have a system where you plan out the next day, the night before. Whatever makes sense for you. I think carving out that time for yourself to do it is the most important. It's a habit, like we were talking about habit building earlier, so it's very similar to that. Can you talk about your own spiritual journey? How did you start out? Do you have any advice on how to go about starting a spiritual practice for someone brand new to it? Beautiful. Let me take a sip before we get into it. So how did I start out? Well, I was raised in the Bible Belt, and everyone I know was like very rigid in their ideas of religion and their ideas of spirituality. But I always was like a very imaginative, very open-minded, very spiritual and curious kid. So I had a lot of questions very, very often. And luckily I had parents who were, for the most part, supportive for me kind of exploring my own ideas. And yeah, I liked to learn about a lot of different religions. I went to a Christian church. I attended a Jewish preschool. I went to a Mennonite youth group. I'm trying to think what else. My babysitter when I was young was Hindu, and I just asked so many questions. I learned so much. But what I found was most grounding and most uplifting and inspiring to me was nature, and spending time in nature and paying attention to the cycles of nature. So when I was 13, I think, when I was 13, I visited my family in Sweden, and I was there for a midsummer celebration, which is the summer solstice, and that got me really interested in paganism. So when I talk about my parents, they really were like very, very open-minded and very like allowing. But I will say that nature-based religions, paganism, all of that, like that was a little scary to my dad especially. So it was something that I kept to myself, and it wasn't something official. I wasn't like really taking on any label. I just knew that the two main things actually for my spirituality was art and nature. And in my 20s, I explored that a bit more. My art practice really became a spiritual practice, and I explored, pagan religions and stuff. I got really into Wicca in my mid-20s, and then I started incorporating stuff from my childhood. So incorporating some of the Christian elements, reading books, basically taking things that resonate with me and going really deep with them. So if I'm curious about something, I'll, study it a lot. If I resonate with it, I'll try it out. But it's not something where I'm very surface level with things. Like if something resonates with me, I go really deep with it. So like lately I've been going very deep with working with Mother Mary. That's been very interesting. And yeah, so I'm really following my heart in it, and that it would be the biggest advice that I would give you is don't feel like you have to put yourself in a certain box. Be willing to follow your heart, but always go deeper, and it's always a journey. You're always going to be going deeper and deeper with things. So think of it as a journey, and it's not like you develop a spiritual practice and then that's it, it's done. Try things out, see what resonates with you, and if something resonates with you, learn all that you can about it and go from there. So yeah, it's always going to be a work in progress. I said this earlier, I think, but think of it as being like your own art project. Okay, let's see what's next. I want to use a planner to help control my diabetes. What is a good planner for that purpose? Wonderful. Okay, let me take a sip. Well, I would say that I don't know if there's a planner that's very specific to that. You could certainly look that up and see if there is. But I love Passion Planner, and they have, very open-ended planner. So it's like you can think of you can think of things in it and figure out what it is that you need for diabetes, and then see how you can add that into a planner and use a planner that way. So Passion Planner is open-ended. Like I said, there's like a lot of different ways that you can use it creatively. So that could be an option, but there are plenty of planners that are more open-ended like that. For example, you might want to use the box at the top of a day or something. Figure out if you need a daily, weekly, monthly spread, whatever that it is. And you can say, well, and like I said, I'm not sure what you need exactly for diabetes, but let's say that you need to check in with your blood sugar. Like maybe you have spots for that throughout the day. Maybe you have a place where you write that. Let's say that you need to meal plan or keep track of water. Like, I would first start out with making a list of the things that you need to do, and then taking a look at planners and seeing how you would fit that into that planner's theme. It's also possible you might be able to find a planner specifically for diabetes. When I wrote down your question, I looked it up and I couldn't find anything immediately. So you could also just go with like a health wellness planner or a meal planner, if that makes the most sense. But think about what you need first. You want something that's going to be very positive for you, uplifting, and yeah, I would take some time. I would take some time looking. But if you do start with Passion Planner, I would just look at the layout and think about how you would like form that into your purpose. So, like I said, there are other open-ended planners as well. That just happens to be the one that I use. I hope that helps. And next, there are only a few here left, so I don't have to shake it up quite as much. What are your thoughts on beginners reading reversals in tarot? Beautiful question. Let me take a sip here. So I will say that you might want to keep things simple. I've heard this a lot when you begin reading. You might want to keep things simple and just focus on the upright meanings at the beginning, because then you can really learn those. And I definitely believe that whatever system you make for yourself in reading the cards will speak to you in that system. So don't, worry about it. You can just kind of say ahead of time, like, I'm not reading reversals. I'm going to read everything upright. And then the cards should be able to speak to you like that. This was concerning to me when I first started, because I thought that reversals meant the opposite. So I was like, oh no, what if I'm accidentally reading a card as the opposite of what it should be, because I actually pulled it reversed, but I'm not reading reversals. And I found that kind of like disconcerting. But I will say that after reading tarot for a while, I've realized that reversals really don't just mean the opposite. In fact, I never really read them as meaning the opposite. I've read them a few different ways. One way that I love reading it is that this is a potential energy here that's being blocked for some reason. And you can go with your intuition each time and see what calls to you. It could also mean that it's the shadow aspect of that. So let's say that the card has a certain meaning, like, oh my gosh, I'm going so blank. Let's say that the card has to do with communication. There are definitely positive aspects of communication, and there are negative aspects. So something that could be positive for one person, if it's off balance, could be actually a negative quality in someone else. And I feel like my mind is going blank on specific examples, but hopefully you know what I mean. It could be like the shadow aspect. Oops. Sorry, I just kicked something over. Could be the shadow aspect of that card. So that's another way that you could read it. So like I said, it's something you'll start to follow your intuition on, and you might just want to let that gradually happen as well. But yeah, when you're beginning out, you might just want to start reading the upright meanings and getting very confident with those, and then start seeing how the reversals play into it, and what you gravitate towards as meaning for reversals, knowing that there are a lot of different ways to interpret reversals. But ultimately, know that the universe speaks to you in your own symbols and your own understanding of them. So no matter what, you're going to be getting the answers that you're asking for. I really hope that that is helpful. Let's see what is next. I think we only have 2 more here. How would you recommend using a passion planner to track specific goals? Beautiful. So I think it depends. Like, you can use, for example, the grid in the back, the grid pages. You could use those as a habit tracker. You could find something on each day that you could like mark off. Like personally, I have symbols for each habit that I want to do each day, and I write that down. So you could, use it like a habit tracker like that. They might even also have printouts. If you haven't checked out their printout section, you totally should. But they have printouts for certain things that you might want. And I bet a habit tracker, I bet there's one on there. But you can print those out and paste them into your pages. And yeah, I think with habit trackers, just remember that tracking your habit is also a habit. So thinking about when does that habit happen? I often have found myself, if I'm doing a habit tracker, feeling like if I get off of tracking it, then I've like lost or something and I give up. So don't let the habit tracker be something that inhibits you from like fully doing the habit. Let it be a tool for you to be able to feel motivated to do the habit. So that's some of my advice there. But you can use the space of infinite possibility, for example, to paste in a habit tracker, which there might be a free PDF on the website. Not sure, we'll have to check. You could also use the to-do list kind of sections for that. I find with Passion Planner there's a lot because there's the monthlies and the weeklies. So let's say that you have space for it, you could use those. But I like to do it throughout the day. So that's one idea, is making a little symbol for each habit and putting that in your planner, like when it was that you did do it. Perhaps you check in with your planner each night and write those symbols in throughout the day. But yeah, if anyone has any advice on how they like to do habit tracking, please put it down below. But that is mine. I hope that it's helpful. Last question. I love this question. Would you ever make an oracle deck? So funny that you should ask this. I do have an oracle deck in mind. I would like to make, I think I would call it the Collage Oracle. And I want to make an oracle deck using methods of collage. So that would be the image of the oracle card would be a collage. When I'm creating a vision board or working with collage, it feels like divination to me because I'm going through so many different, magazines. I'm seeing so many images. I'm cutting them out and then I'm pasting them and I'm seeing how they fit together. And sometimes I discover meanings after the fact where I'm like, whoa, I put this next to this, and or this orientation with this makes me think of this other thing that I didn't even realize. So the act of collage feels magical to me. So I would love to do that, to create an oracle deck, because then it would be like a method of divination in itself. So the Collage Oracle. And I do have an idea of making it perhaps like on my Patreon and on like monthly subscriptions, making it something that you could, if you wanted to, subscribe to, and I would mail you an oracle card every month, a new one. I'd create a new one each month, mail it out with a description so that you kind of build your own oracle deck. So that's one idea that I'm coming up with. Please let me know if you're interested in that idea. But yeah, I have designed a card game. It's a witchy card game. I've got a link down below. And I think if I were to publish an oracle deck, it would be through that same website, thegamecrafter.com. That's how I would want to do it. But yeah, it's totally something on my mind. So great question. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening to this Q&A, and thank you for sending in questions. If you want to send in questions for a future Q&A, you can. My email address is down below. It's heytherehummingbird@runbox.com. can see it down below, and send me any questions there. Perhaps in the future we'll do more themed Q&As, or it could just be open-ended. But yeah, I would love to hear your questions, and thank you so much for the ones that you sent me. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like this video, and yeah, thank you so much for being here and for being such a wonderful support to this channel. I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.